Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, my esteemed subscribers, my viewers. You're welcome to today's program in our channel, Scripture Analysis for Abundance. My name is David Iloma, and I am here to see how we can be able to use the scriptures, to analyze the scriptures, to give us everything we want from life, every good thing we want from life. If you agree with me, if you are a good Bible student or you are conversant with the scriptures, you will know or you agree with me that there is nothing you will not see in the Holy Scriptures. And there is no problem in life today that the solution is not there. Or there is no secret for wealth or for prosperity that you will not find in the scriptures. So that is why it is important that you click this subscribe, that subscribe button you are seeing right there if you have not subscribed, because we will be dishing out so much goodies from the scriptures that will help in answering virtually every other problems that we face today. Now, the last time, and before I proceed, I have to apologize for being away for several weeks now. This should be my priority actually in my scale of preference, but sometimes, due to the family work and other issues coming up, one may not be able to meet up. But I assure you, by the grace of God, I'll be more consistent henceforth. Now, the last time we met, it was on Genesis chapter 4. Today, one will be on Genesis chapter 5. And we will not read all through like I normally do in the past, because this chapter is basically about the descendants of Adam. But there are about 3 or 4 things that are very important that we point out from this chapter, that at the end of the day you see the reason why we needed to go through it. Now I will start from verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. I am reading from the King James Version of the Holy Scriptures. Now, verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. This is just like when we talk about man as a common gender. Man, as a common gender. So sometimes when you say man, you are referring to both male and female. So the same way it was written here about Adam and Eve, they are both called Adam. Now I continue. In verse 3, I read, And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Now, it is recorded that initially Adam was created a perfect human being, but after the fall, after man disobeyed God, he became sinful, evil. He lost that grace of God. He became all sorts of things. So that likeness of God was no longer in him. That was why he gave birth to a son in his own likeness. So he was no longer perfect at this point in time, because you cannot give what you don't have. Now, in verse 4, and the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Now, Adam lived for 930 years. You can imagine. That's quite a lot. That's really quite a lot. So, it shows that is one might say that, recall that God said that in the day you eat of that fruit, you will surely die. Actually, Adam died. But sometimes we look at death as just physical. Death is not just physical. One can be a living dead. That's why we're talking about someone that is a living dead. Some people are dead, but they are walking around the streets. Some people are gone, but you see them walking. That's why it's often said that many are mad, but few are roaming. That is in another context anyway. But in this context, you see a lot of people moving around the streets, but some of them are no longer there. They are gone far away. They are no longer with you. Some are dead spiritually. The same thing happened to Adam. There was a separation between him and God. He died that day instantly, spiritually speaking. Because death can be in spiritual sense, in a psychological sense, and in physical sense. But in the case of Adam, it was both spiritual and psychological. So Adam was separated from God the moment he disobeyed God. Regardless that he didn't die physically. Although the scriptures at a point will tell you that a day in the sight of God is like 1,000 years, or like yesterday. So if we want to go from that angle, we can also infer that Adam did not live up to a day in the sight of God. But let's not go into that. So the point here is that Adam actually died spiritually that day. He died spiritually and psychologically. I'm not going to go through all the verses. Like I said earlier, I'm going to speak and skip verse from verses 6 to verse 20. But if you read through verse 6 to 20, you will see the other faithfuls. Like Seth, we mentioned, Seth lived up to 912 years. We see like Enos that live up to 905 years. We see people like Canaan that live for 910 years, and others like them. We talk about there's another one, Mahalalel, who lived for he was one that lived the least, 895 years. Mahalalel. And then we talk about Jared. Jared was the second longest living man in the history of mankind. He lived for 962 years, second to the highest, which we'll come to as we continue. So we'll skip all this and go to verse 20. Verse 21 rather. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. Now Enoch was the direct son of Jared, who I said was the second longest living individual in the history of man. Now Enoch lived 65 years before he gave birth to his son Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God, verse 22. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. In other words, Enoch distinguished himself from his contemporaries. Enoch walked with God, and he lived for 365 years, which today, in our present age, or in this present era, or in this era, it's quite a lot. In fact, nobody in recent history have been seen to have lived up to 300 years. But this man lived for 365 years. Only at that time, he was just more or less like a young man, because his parents, those that gave birth to him, lived, the list from what we have read is 895 years. So he was more or less like a young man when he died. But God took him early in his time. Was early. Because he distinguished himself. He walked with God. He obeyed the commandments of God. And God took him. He did not experience the natural death. God transformed him into nothing. He did not experience the natural death. He will come back in the day of resurrection, and by the grace of God, he will be among those that will be blessed in the kingdom of God. So Methuselah distinguished himself, and God took him. The same way, you see that some people who are good today, they will die in a young age. And Isaiah the prophet talked about it in Isaiah chapter 57 verse 1, that the righteous perisheth, and no one taketh it to heart. That the merciful are taken away, and no one considereth that the righteous are taken away from the evil to come. So sometimes when we lose our loved ones, or those who are dear to us, we cry. We don't know that sometimes it's for their own good. God took them early, so that they will not either backslide or sin against him, or he was pleased with their life, and he took them early. So that is what we should learn from here. Now, we will continue to read. We will talk about the life of Methuselah, who lived for 969 years. He was the highest. Now, let's fast forward to verse 29. And he called his name Noah, that is Lamech, who is the son of Methuselah, gave birth to a son, Noah, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord had cursed." And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. So Lamech lived for 777 years, 777, and he died. Now Noah was comforted, was like a source of comfort. And in the same way, God does not leave his people, because there's so much things that leads to stress today, in life. Even in the house of God, people are stressed up. Where people are supposed to come to find comfort, to find solace, they are stressed up. But we are assured, God has said that he will comfort his people. And Noah, as his name is, means rest, which is a type of Christ, or a type of Yeshua, because his proper name is Yeshua. So Noah means rest, and that's why Yeshua said in his days, during his earthly ministry, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Because his name, Yeshua, means salvation, which is the deliverance from sin and all its consequences, including death. So the time, Christ or Yeshua means rest, a saving grace that God will give his people. And that was what Noah typified in his time. He comforted his parents. I hope you got that point. Now, in the last verse, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. In fact, the total age of Noah was 950 years. If you go to Genesis chapter 9, verse 29, that's when we'll go further. So I'm just trying to bring it to our notice. So we can see from this Genesis chapter 5 that there are quite few and quite interesting things that we have to pick. The fact that we should live a godly life, should live a genuine life, so that we are going to give birth to offspring, children that will be genuine, that will be upright like we are. It doesn't mean that someone who is upright will not give birth to children who are wayward as a result of environmental influence. But there's a probability which is very high that if you are a godly person, the tendency that you're going to give birth to children who are godly like you, especially when you get it right by in training and the environment where these children grow up in, that they will turn out to be godly children, is very, very high. So we should try so that we will not give birth to offspring like Adam did, in his own likeness, in his sinful and evil likeness. Secondly, this also talked about the fact that Enoch walked with God. So despite the fact that we are living in an age where there's a high rate of lust and violence going on in our land today, high level of immoral living, it doesn't mean that we cannot walk with God. We can still walk with God, just like Enoch did. Then also Noah, rest. So God has assured that he's going to give rest to his people. He's going to comfort us in our trials, in our tribulations. So these are the three cardinal points, or the three important lessons that we should take home from this chapter. And may God continue to help us in our services to him, in our journey to the land without end, and in our efforts in having a good life in this present world and a life to come, life everlasting. So my dear viewers, guys, I appreciate you, and my returning subscribers, I really appreciate you too. If this video has touched you, if you are a first timer, please do well to subscribe, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell, and also engage me in the comment section. If you have more points you need to talk about, we need to discuss with regards to Genesis chapter 5, please do well to comment, engage us in this in the comment section, So welcome to this channel once again. I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to engaging more with my dear wonderful viewers, and may God continue to replenish you. May God continue to bless you in all that you put your hands to do. I thank you. I'm signing out. See you soon, pretty soon. Bye.